Okay, so what we're doing here is we're doing section 3.3 function notation. Function notation is if I write something f of x or g of x, anything of x, where x is the domain and f of x is the same as y, which is your range. So it's a function of x because x controls what happens. So I say it's a function of x. Okay, so here are some examples of what we have to do. So I have two x values. I have x is -2 and I have x is 3. And so I'm going to plug those in to this function right here. So a lot of times I will start by writing the function 3x plus 4. Now I don't really write this. People will plug stuff in there and then people start solving equations, but really I have to plug something in and just simplify, find out what my answer is. And so it's going to be 3 times -2 plus 4. I just substituted in for x. So that gives me -6 plus 4, which is -2. Over here I do the same thing. I write the function down without the letters. And so now it's 3 times -2. Oops, not -2. What were we supposed to plug in? We're supposed to plug in 3. 3 times 3 plus 4. So 3 times 3 is 9 plus 4, which is 13. Okay, so there are going to be some problems that are just like this where you just plug it in. There's also going to be some interpreting problems. Let's see. What I would like you to do before we go on to the interpreting, why don't you go to the second page of notes and I'd like you to try numbers 1 through 4. Now, if it's an f function, you're going to use this. So you're going to use the f function for 1 and 3. But if you notice for number 2 and 4, it's a g function. So you have to use the g. Okay? So go ahead and see if you can write those and plug those in. And when you think you're ready, press play. Okay, so you should have written 2x plus 6. And instead of x, I'm plugging in a -5. So that's -10 plus 6, which is -4. Over here for g, it should have been -x minus 4. So it's -4 minus 4. And I didn't talk about this, but you notice I'm plugging things in parentheses. Plugging things in parentheses is going to make a difference sometimes, especially if there's an exponent. So if you get in the habit now, it'll be good for you to plug them in with parentheses because you'll always get it right. All right, -4 and a -4 is a -8. All right, so the next one, 2x plus 6, and this time I'm plugging in a 4. So I get 8 plus 6, which is 14. And then over here, negative, and then I'm plugging in a -3. So I put -3 in parentheses. So a negative is going to turn it into a +3 minus 4. And a +3 and a -4 is a -1. Okay. All right, let's go back up and see how we interpret. So f of t is the temperature. So this is temperature after t hours. And here's the thing, it's t hours after 6 a.m. So t represents the hours after 6 a.m. All right, so here t is 2. So that's 2 hours after 6 a.m. So that's 8 a.m. So at 8 a.m. And remember, this is going to be the temperature. The temperature is 44 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, again, the number in parentheses is how many hours after 6 a.m. This is 0 hours after 6 a.m. So this one should be at 6 a.m. The temperature is, and it's just this, 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, on this next one, I don't know, and choose a different color. 14 hours after 6 a.m. Well, 12 hours after 6 a.m. is 6 p.m. So 12 hours equals 6 p.m. So now I need to go 2 more after that. So that's going to be at 8 p.m. So at 8 p.m., the temperature is 72 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, this one's a little different because I'm comparing 3 hours after and 7 hours after. Okay, 3 hours after is going to be 9 a.m. And 7 hours after, well, 6 plus 7 is 13. So that's at 1 p.m. Okay, and you notice it's pointing to 9 a.m. So that means it's colder at 9 a.m. It is colder, or the temperature's lower at 9 a.m. than it is at 1 p.m. Okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is you're going to go down and try the application problem that's like this down below in your notes. So for number 5 through 6, this time we are talking about profit, and T is tickets sold. Okay? So see if you can try 5 through 7, and when you're ready, press play. Okay, so this one, oops, I'm going to continue highlighting because that's what we did above and that worked. So this is 6, and that's tickets sold. So with 6 tickets sold, and that's profit, the profit is $12. Ooh. For the next one, for 0 tickets sold, so for no tickets sold, the profit is negative $14. And this one we have a comparison one again, but it's still, we start with what we know. We know our X. And so with 3 tickets sold, and then we're talking about the profit, and it's not equal to, it's greater than. So is more or greater than $50. Okay? So if you start off by figuring out what X is, that's what helps. And then you say how many the X are, and then you equal it or greater than or less than what they say the value was. All right, last thing, and we're not going to have any more examples of this, but we are just going to have this one, and you're going to want to look at this one when you do your assignment. Okay, so when we graph using a table, this is an input-output table, so it's kind of like a function table because that's what we did up above. We did input output. The input was a -2, the output was a -2. The input was a 3, the output was a 13. So it's going to be very similar to that. So input is what controls it, and that's X. Output is what we get in result, which is Y. And so what happens is I have values, and I'm going to plug it in. So what we need to do is we need to create a function for this. So let's say the function of X is going to be -2x plus 3. So I do that for each problem. So it'll be -2 times -2 plus 3, which is 4 plus 3, which is 7. So then I graph that point. -2, 7. It's up here, 1. Okay, and then now the next one, I'm going to change color so it doesn't get confusing because they're going to be near each other here. I'm going to plug in a -1. So -2 times -1 plus 3, which is +2 plus 3, which is 5. So now for this one, it's -1 comma 5. Change colors again. This one we're going to kind of have a curvy arrow. So -2 times 0 plus 3. Well, that's 0 plus 3, so it's just 3. So this one I'm at 0, 3. And then the next one, another color yet again. And so -2 times 1 plus 3, which is -2 plus 3, which is 1. So 1 comma 1. And then I need one last color. We'll go with gray. Negative 2 times 2 plus 3. Negative 4 plus 3, which is negative 1. And if you notice, I get a line. So you will usually have this function. Somehow this function was not written on our notes. So that's the function we use. But you create a table with 3 to 5 inputs. You choose the inputs, and that's what I did here. I said I was going to do negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. And then I plug them in to find the outputs, and then I graph input, comma, output. Okay? All right. And so let's go back up and look and make sure we remember function notation. You're just plugging something in. What you plug in is the x, which is input, and what you get out of it is the y, which is the output.